Sometimes it's the way she touched you that haunts you. It's the way she smiled, as if she already knew she'd ruin you. The first time I saw Lynn, she was laughing at something someone else said. The sound didn't reach me, only the sight of her did. Her smile wasn't perfect, not even close. But there was something in it, a kind of sadness pretending to be light. It pulled me in before I even realized I was falling. She wasn't supposed to notice me. She wasn't supposed to look back. But she did. And in that single look, I forgot who I was before her. We met under a ceiling of yellow lights, the kind that make everything look warmer than it really is. She was leaning against the window, rain sliding down the glass behind her like soft motion blur. And she smiled at me that night, really smiled. It felt like an invitation, not to love, but to break beautifully. People talk about love like it's supposed to heal you. They never tell you about the kind that looks like healing but cuts you deeper. Some conversations, Dante, begin with words. They begin with glances that last a second too long. The rain hadn't stopped that night. The sound of it filled the small cafe, soft and rhythmic, like a heartbeat keeping time for everything we didn't say. She was sitting across from me now, a coffee cup between her hands, steam rising slowly and catching the faint light. "Do you always stare this much?" she asked, lips curling slightly, half amusement, half challenge. I looked away, pretending to study the raindrops on the window. Only when someone looks worth staring at. Her laugh came low, quiet, almost private. She said, "People start believing you mean it." I wanted to tell her I already did, but instead I smiled. Maybe that's the point. Silence again. But it wasn't uncomfortable. It was thick, alive. The kind that hums between two people who are both pretending not to notice. Lynn's gaze softened as she looked out the window. "I like the rain," she said finally. "It makes everything look softer, less real." "You don't like real?" I asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. "Real things break too easily." I watched her fingers trace the rim of her cup, slow and absent-minded. Her nails were short, clean. Her hands looked fragile, but the way she held herself told me she was anything but. I wanted to know everything. What she was hiding behind that calm smile. What she thought about when she looked away. What kind of pain made her eyes look that tired at 24? She glanced back at me and caught me staring again. This time she didn't tease. Instead, she said softly, "You look like someone who believes in happy endings." "I used to," I said. "Until I realized some people aren't meant to stay, they just meant to change you." Her lips parted slightly, like she wanted to reply, but didn't. The lights flickered above us, and the rain fell harder, blurring the world beyond the window. For a moment, she smiled again, that same impossible, devastating smile, and I knew. That was the mistake I'd keep making. Sometimes love doesn't arrive with fireworks. It sneaks in quietly, through shared laughter and the kind of silence that feels safe. Days turned into weeks. We kept meeting, sometimes on purpose, sometimes by accident that didn't feel like one. The cafe became our unspoken place. She'd always sit by the same window, and I'd always pretend I was surprised to see her there. One evening, the rain had stopped early. The air outside was warm, humming with the sound of traffic and the smell of wet earth. Lynn was sketching something on a napkin, small, careless lines, while I watched her from across the table. "What are you drawing?" I asked. She smiled without looking up. "Nothing that matters." I leaned forward, trying to see. "And why are you smiling like it does?" Her eyes flicked up, soft but sharp. You really want to know? Always. She turned the napkin toward me. It was a messy little sketch, two silhouettes standing under one umbrella. I felt my chest tighten. That's us, I said quietly. Maybe she whispered, maybe it is just how I wish things could stay before the world gets too real again. The words lingered between us, fragile and unfinished. She looked down quickly, as if she'd said too much. I wanted to reach across the table and take her hand. I didn't. Instead, I smiled, the kind of smile that hides more than it shows. Outside, thunder murmured somewhere far away. Inside, the air between us changed, heavier now, charged with something that felt like a beginning and an ending at the same time. And as she looked up again, her eyes met mine, and I knew this. Whatever this was, it would hurt. But I wasn't going to walk away. There's a kind of closeness that docentine need touch, just two hearts standing quietly in the same storm. That night, the city felt slower. The streets glowed under yellow lamps, and every reflection in the puddles looked like a memory trying to stay alive. Lynn and I walked side by side, neither of us saying much. Our hands brushed once accidentally, or maybe not. She laughed softly. You're quiet tonight. I'm thinking, I said. About what? I looked at her, the faint wind brushing her hair against her cheek. About how sometimes you smile when you're sad. Her steps faltered for a moment. You notice that? I notice everything about you. She stopped walking. The air between us grew still. Her eyes met mine, uncertain, searching like she was waiting for something to happen and afraid it might. Then she said, almost in a whisper, you shouldn't. Why not? Because I'll disappoint you. Her words hit harder than I expected. I wanted to tell her that she already mattered too much for disappointment to change anything. But she looked away, staring at the sky where the clouds were breaking apart to reveal a few tired stars. People always leave, she said finally. That's what they do when they realize I'm not what they thought. I stepped closer, close enough to smell the faint scent of rain still clinging to her. Then let me be the first who doesn't. Her eyes softened, and for a second, just one, I thought she'd let me in. She smiled, that same fragile smile that started it all. And in that moment, I knew exactly why it would destroy me. Some truths don't break you all at once. They dissolve slowly every time the person you love looks at you like you're temporary. We didn't meet for a few days after that night. Maybe she was avoiding me, or maybe I was too afraid to find out what she really felt. But when she finally called, her voice sounded lighter than before, like nothing had happened. Coffee? Coffee? She asked. Always, I said. When I walked into the cafe, she was already there. Same window seat, same soft light, but something was different. She wasn't sketching or smiling. She looked tired. Not the kind you fix with sleep, but the kind that comes from carrying too much for too long. You okay? I asked. She nodded, though her eyes said no. I just needed to see you, she said quietly. There was something in the way she said it, fragile, almost pleading. I sat down, waiting for her to speak, but she didn't. Instead, she reached across the table and brushed her fingers over mine, a small, trembling touch that felt like both a beginning and a goodbye. I wish you didn't make me feel safe, she whispered. My chest tightened. Why? Because safety makes me stay. Cut it, cut it, cut it, cut it, cut it. And I can't stay. Her voice cracked on the last word. For a moment, the world around us disappeared. The sound of clinking cups, the hum of the rain outside. Everything faded until it was just her hand on mine and the silence that carried all the things we were too afraid to say. "Then don't go," I said, "at least not yet." She looked up at me, eyes glistening under the cafe light. "You'll hate me if I stay." "I already hate how much I care," I whispered. And then she smiled. The same broken, beautiful smile that started everything. Her smile was my mistake, and I was making it all over again. Sometimes the person you love the most isn't running from you, they rerunning from the parts of themselves they can forgive. It was late when she showed up at my door. No message, no call, just the sound of soft knocking in the middle of the night. When I opened it, Lynn stood there, drenched from the rain, eyes red, hand shaking. "I didn't know where else to go," she whispered. I didn't ask questions, I just pulled her inside. She stood in the dim light of my apartment, water dripping from her sleeves. Her shoulders trembling as if holding back everything she'd been keeping in for years. "I keep trying to do the right thing," she said finally. "But every time I do, it hurts someone. And when I try not to care, it hurts me." Her voice broke, and that was all it took. I stepped forward and wrapped my arms around her. She froze for a heartbeat, then slowly melted into me, her breath uneven against my neck. The rain outside softened to a distant hum, like the world had stepped back to give us this small, fragile moment. "You don't have to fix everything," I murmured. "You just have to stop pretending you're okay." She pulled back just enough to look at me. "You make it sound easy. It isn't," I said, "but it's real." Her hand came up to my face, hesitant, trembling as if she was afraid I'd disappear if she touched me. Her thumb brushed against my cheek, and for a moment, I forgot how to breathe. Her eyes softened. "You shouldn't love me," she said.
Not too late.
There was silence, the kind that holds more truth than words ever could. And then she smiled again. That same devastating smile, the one that felt like light and pain all at once. Some love stories don't end when someone leaves. They end when you finally understand why they couldn't stay. The morning after felt too quiet. The rain had stopped, but the air still smelled like it remembered. Lynn sat by the window, wrapped in one of my old shirts, tracing invisible patterns on the fogged glass. I made coffee just to have something to do. The sound of the spoon against the mug was the only thing breaking the silence between us. "Did you sleep?" I asked softly. She shook her head. "I don't think I know how anymore." I walked over and placed a cup in front of her. "And stay until you remember." She smiled faintly, that same bittersweet smile that could both heal and wound in a single breath. "You don't understand," she said quietly. "If I stay, you'll start believing I'm someone worth waiting for." I sat across from her. "You already are." She looked at me for a long time, so long that it hurt. Then she said, "There's someone else. Someone I hurt before you." I thought leaving her would make it easier, but all I did was carry the guilt here. Her words hung heavy in the air. I didn't move, didn't speak. I just let the ache settle in, like rain seeping into the cracks of an old wall. "Then why come to me?" I finally asked. "Because you make me feel like I could be forgiven," she whispered. "But I don't deserve that." My throat tightened. "What if I forgive you anyway?" She blinked fast, eyes glistening. "Then I'd never forgive myself." We sat there in silence, watching the sunlight bleed slowly into the room. Everything looked golden, fragile, and painfully temporary. And then, as if it was the only thing she could still control, She reached out, pressed her lips softly to my forehead, and said, "Thank you for seeing me." When she pulled away, her eyes lingered for a heartbeat longer, and then she smiled. The one I'd spent a lifetime trying not to mistake for love. Some people leave, but they did not disappear. They live quietly in the spaces where your heart still remembers them. Weeks passed. The city moved on, as cities always do. The cafe changed its music, the rain became rarer, and her name stopped appearing on my phone. But even silence has an echo, and hers lingered everywhere, in the empty seat by the window, in the faint smell of jasmine that somehow still clung to my scarf. I tried to forget. I tried everything. Forgetting isn't erasing, it's just learning to live with what stays. One evening, while walking home, I passed by the art gallery near the old park. A small crowd had gathered outside, soft lights, framed sketches, quiet music. I don't know why I went in. Maybe curiosity, maybe something else, and there she was. Her name written neatly under a painting. Her smile was my mistake. The sketch was simple, two figures under the same umbrella. One looking forward, the other looking back. I stood there for what felt like hours, staring at it, feeling the weight of every unspoken word settle in my chest. I didn't look for her in the crowd. I didn't have to. She was in the lines of the drawing, in the brushstrokes of regret and tenderness that only she could create. A soft voice behind me said, "It was never your mistake." I turned, and for a heartbeat, she was there. Or maybe it was just my memory pretending she still was. The smile, the eyes, the quiet sadness, all of it felt too real, too close. But when I blinked, she was gone. I stepped closer to the painting, whispering under my breath, maybe it was both of ours. Outside, the rain started again, soft, familiar, endless. And for the first time, I didn't wish it would stop. Because somewhere between loving her and losing her, I had finally learned how to breathe again.